Good morning. Welcome to a new class. Today we'll be looking at multiple sclerosis. This is quite an advanced condition. It's an autoimmune disorder. And just before I get started with the class, today will be my last class for this semester. I will be going on a big break, long break, and then I'll come back and start teaching again. And I'll give you one story to take away with you and really ponder on what makes you a human being. Really understand who you are and how you can invoke your powers within. Multiple sclerosis is just one of the disorders that makes you realize that you're losing power, you're losing out on the strengths that you have within you. It's a realization disorder. Okay, so we look at the emotional side, we look at the physical side, we look at the scientific side, and then we'll look at some stories that will help you bridge the scientific and the emotional, physical side of multiple sclerosis into one. And as today is my last class, I want to challenge myself. So what I usually do is in my classes, I work on the disease for a week. So I work on this disease for a week, and then I come up with through imagination, I come up with an answer or a solution or questions that are from the emotional aspect. Remember, as above, so below. The higher the tree, the lower the roots are, the more visual the painting is, the more real life the painting is, the more strokes of the brush it has, the more depth it has. As I go through the week, I uncover new layers of every aspect of the condition, why it happens, what it does in the body, what are the scientific reasons for it, and so on. And I go into the depths of understanding the condition or disease. Okay. And then I research about stories, I research about what's happened in ancient civilization to now, why and how they considered particular diseases, particular organs, particular hormones back in the day. How do they look at that? And then come up with a mind map, a newsletter that I send out weekly. And within that, there are answers, right? So my whole point is I go through the week finding the answer to the condition or the disease. But today I don't have a specific answer for this. I want to discover that with you through this class. I have a huge amount of questions, and those questions will hopefully guide us towards answering the question of why this happens and how this happens and how to support it or how to get rid of it. This is going to be a challenge. It's going to be a journey because I'm entering into an unknown territory today and I'm unfamiliar with what this condition is specifically. I've done the scientific research, I've done the stories, I've done the ancient civilization. So there's a framework in mind, which I'll share with you, but the destination is not there yet. Okay, so hopefully by the end of this class, we can reach that destination together and kind of gauge or understand this condition better. All right, let's get started. All what multiple sclerosis is immune cells, T cells, attacking the myelin sheath. This is your body. Okay, this is your body. You have your spinal cord here. Imagine this is your spinal cord. Okay, you have a bunch of nervous system, nerves. You have nerves here and they're connected to, especially the vagus nerve is connected to the brain over here. Imagine this is your brain. Now, throughout your entire nervous system, there is neurons and synapses and neurotransmitters. There's messaging that happens through the neurotransmitters, through hormones, etc. There's messaging that happens, which travels through the nervous system. So I'll just draw a zoom in microscopic view of a particular nerve. This is your spinal cord connected to the brain. And then you have, let's just draw. This is a nerve, for example. But if you Google an image, it looks like something like this. And then you have squares, okay, that protect and insulate the nerves, okay, or the nervous system. Imagine this is the cell, the nuclei, etc. And the messages travels through the nervous system. These this protective layer is a myelin sheet that wraps around the nerve cell axon. This is nerve cell axon. The nervous system, and you have cells in the nervous system, and the myelin sheet is wrapped around the nerve cells to protect it and to ensure that there is good speed of messaging, flow of messaging through the channel, nervous system. The speed, the insulation, the electricity within the nervous system. You have messages that travel through. So imagine this red are like messages, and imagine this red are messages, and they travel through the nervous system. And there's a level of speed that it happens with. This is also called MS, by the way, and this is the short form. Okay, myelin sheet provide protection, insulation, and they help the speed of the neurotransmitters. It's a protective fatty sheet that wraps around and provides support to the electrical impulses going through the nervous system. And when you have multiple sclerosis, what happens is you have bone marrow throughout your body. Inside the bone marrow, there is the development of T cells. T cells, I know this is getting too scientific, but stay with me and I'll explain it as we go through step by step. So T cells are produced and then they get matured in the thymus, which is over here. So I'm just going to draw the thymus, not the thyroid gland, the thymus. They get matured in the thymus and then they essentially go throughout the body. And what happens is these T cells, they get switched on the wrong way. Okay. They start attacking your spinal cord and then also in the brain. T cells basically crack through the blood-brain barrier and they go and attack the myelin sheaths. Imagine these are cells that are attacking. And what happens because of that? When the myelin sheath starts degenerating or demyelinating because of these immune cells attacking it. T cells are immune cells, by the way. They start attacking it. And this is what autoimmune disorder is. Immune is when your immune cells are fighting your own body. What happens is that the speed of the electrical impulses slow down. Protection is degrading and there is not enough insulation for the chemical messages in the nerve cells to get transferred across your nervous system. And hence you have a delayed response. You have a delayed response throughout your brain, throughout your spine, and that travels throughout your body. You have things like fatigue. So it's going to go down and I'm just going to describe the symptoms of MS. Fatigue, you have depression, you have vision loss, and you also get reduced color perception. And you also get heat sensitivity and bladder dysfunction. Bladder dysfunction and heat sensitivity. It's because your body is not able to send messages across your nervous system. You also get issues with, for example, shaking the hands, etc., or delayed finger or hand or legs response, delayed muscle responses. And what puts you at the risk of MS according to science is stress, number one. And stress is specifically described as conflict. And we'll discuss this very soon. Conflict within the environment, disruption. You also have genetics, heavy metals, obesity. And in obesity, you can say the gut microbiome dysbiosis or gut microbiome issues. And this can come from gluten or lactose. Gluten is actually a major driver. I'll write it down. Gluten is actually a major driver for autoimmune, any sort of autoimmune condition. Gluten is the first thing that you should essentially cut out of your diet, which is the foundation so your gut lining can heal. Environmental triggers. This include lack of sunlight exposure, okay, and viruses. So Epstein-Barr virus. These are the main risk factors or the main causative, the main drivers of multiple sclerosis. As you can see, it's a lot of information because it is a complex autoimmune disease. There's a lot in the scientific part that we had to cover so you can understand. Just keep these words in mind: protection, insulation, and then we have fatigue and depression, vision loss. And then we also have stress or conflict and disruption in the environment, whether it's family, whether it's relationships. Yeah. And like T cells attacking the myelin sheaths, which provide protection to communication. So now I'll share a story with you. We'll jump right into story from the Hindu scriptures and we can understand this disease much better. This protection, insulation, if you look at what's actually happening in the body, okay, if you pay attention to the microscopic view of the body and then you zoom out and you look at it the bird's eye view, you zoom in and you look at your sheaths in the nerve in your nervous system are degrading. Okay, they're being attacked. They're losing their strength. They're losing their power, because of which you're losing your ability, the neuron's ability to communicate with one another. There's a delayed response. There is a delay in communication. Imagine your nervous system as an entire communication network, like, for example, underground wire cables or the mycelium network that happens underground. Remember in my IBS video, I talked about how on trees, so imagine this is a tree, and you have an underground fungi mushroom, mycelium network that communicates with the tree. And because of this communication, this tree remains strong. Because of this communication, the tree can withstand a lot of environmental triggers or issues. If there was no network underneath, if the tree is alone, just like, for example, when you do single seed farming, when a farm practices monoculture, which is simply single seed farming, a single crop they plant and they harvest that, they need to use fertilizers and they need to use pesticides to promote and maintain the growth of the single crop. But when you have a thing like a rainforest, when you have thousands of species, thousands of networks underground, and you have an entire fungi network underground, you promote what is called agriculture diversity. The diversity maintains the strength of the entire rainforest. Delay in communication. This is one aspect of the microscopic view of the myelin sheet. Keep this framework in mind and we'll understand this. And then you also have lack of protections. Your nervous system is essentially losing its power. Power can be energy, and I'll use a lot of metaphors. So when I use metaphors, I'll link it to the symptoms. Energy again. Power, what does that mean? It means you get fatigued. You feel tired very often because of this delay in communication. Now, when there is a loss of energy or power, there's also a loss of insulation. Loss of the myelin sheets to hold its energy within, insulate the fire or insulate the energy. Energy is fire essentially. Loss of insulation, which makes you heat sensitive. You have a lot of heat, which can be easily provoked in the body because there is no insulation. Your body temperature can rise very easily because there is no insulation. Thermoregulation is the same thing. Your body's ability to regulate its temperatures. Now, when you look at these three particular aspects of MS, a story that in the Hindu scriptures that reminds me of this particular situation where you lose your power, you lose your ability. Remember, myelin sheet, it's already within you. It's just degraded. It's being attacked. It's losing its strength. It's not something new to your body. There is a story that is in the Ramayana depicts this particular story, which is the story of Hanuman. And this will give you a deep insight into MS. Okay, this story that I'll explain. Hanuman is the son of the wind god of air. Hanuman has the powers of his father, who is the god of air. Air means communication. Air means transmission. Air means the ability for something to travel across, messaging, etc. Communication is the value of air. Being the son of known as Vayu Putra, Vayu means air. Being the son of air gives him the power to fly, gives him the power to be invincible. There's a story of him eating the sun. Okay, he flies up and he eats the sun because he thinks it's apple fruit. And then after that, one of the demigods, this is when he's a child, by the way. So Hanuman as a child is very mischievous. He likes to play around. As every other child does, he likes to cause chaos or just have fun, I guess, in life, you know? So he looks at the sun and he sees the sun as apple and he flies up and he eats the sun. And obviously, because of this, there's entire chaos on Earth. There is no sun, so there is no cultivation of crops, etc. There is no light for anyone. And one of the demigods, who is Indra, who is the god of lightning, like Zeus, he strikes a thunderbolt onto Hanuman's face to make him open up his mouth and basically regurgitate the sun out. And so he does that, and then Hanuman, because he's a child, he faints, etc., and he lies down on earth where all the gods then come, all the demigods come. Because he faints, they give him life. The demigods give him multiple powers that make him essentially the most powerful energy or the most powerful being on the planet. Okay, so he can become big, he can become small, he can lift a huge amount of weight, things like mountains. He can basically overcome any problem through his strength, his invincibility, and his energy or power and ability to leap and fly. Now, what happens is the story goes for Hanuman, because he has all these powers now, he's been gifted by the demigods. He goes out and uses his powers to disturb sages, to disturb rishis who are meditating. He plays around with the fire. He plays around, causing a lot of chaos, essentially. Okay. And then the sages come together and they curse Hanuman, by telling him that he will lose out on his powers, he won't remember them anymore. He won't be able to recall his powers. It's a memory thing, okay? So he still has the powers, but he's forgotten it because he's caused a lot of chaos. He's misused his power. The sages, they create a curse that he will forget his powers. There is a caveat to this. They do say he needs to be reminded by someone to remember his powers. After that, Hanuman sort of struggles after that to recall his powers. He still has some amount of strength. He still has some amount of capabilities, but he's not as powerful as he can be because he's got this curse on him by the sages. And there's a time that comes when, after he grows up into his young adulthood, into being an adult, there's a time when he has to take a leap into Lanka, who is an enemy's land. So just stay with me. I know we're kind of entering a different territory, but I hope you find this story quite interesting because it can teach you a lot. So Hanuman is over here. Okay. And Lanka is like from India to Sri Lanka, if you can imagine. It's a huge, so imagine this is the end of India, okay, over here. And this is Sri Lanka over here. And there's water in between. Basically, what Hanuman has to do, he has to take a leap. He has to fly over to Lanka to give Sita, who is Ram's wife. Ram is trying to save his wife from Ravan, who is the king of Lanka. So this is a battle between Ram and Ravan. And to give hope to Sita, who is basically kidnapped by Ravan at his Lanka. To give hope to Sita, Ram sends Hanuman to give her a ring that he'll return and save Sita. Ravan essentially kidnaps Ram's wife, and when Ram is in exile, so when he's in the forest, he's living his life in the forest, Ravan comes along and he kidnaps Ram's wife. And along the journey of finding Sita, his wife, he meets Hanuman, and Hanuman becomes his great companion to support him and help him throughout his journey of essentially killing Ravan in the end and saving Sita. Okay, so the ring is like a message that Hanuman has to deliver because he is the god. Because he's a son of the wind, he has the power to deliver any message. And no other. So there's an army of monkeys. Essentially, Hanuman is, by the way, a monkey. There's a lot of monkeys who are trying to help Ram, but only Hanuman can actually help Ram because he has all the powers of the demigods or the gods. Okay, and at that time, before taking the leap, right, he doesn't know that he can go to Lanka. He doesn't know that he can take the leap, but he can, and he's reminded of him by Jamwant, who is one of the wiser monkeys, who is older. Basically, what's happening is all the monkeys are standing over here at the edge of India, and they're trying to help Hanuman to revive his powers, to go across, take the leap after the river, and meet Sita in Lanka. Now, Jamwant comes along and he recites the story of how Hanuman was when he was a child, what his powers were. He gives him an entire timeline of education about himself. Jamwant reminds him of himself when he was young, and he recites a story, okay, which then invokes Hanuman's imagination to realize himself. So realize who he is. And that makes him overcome the curse. He no longer has his curse anymore because he's been recited and his imagination has invoked, and he's reminded of who he is. Hence, he gains all his powers back, and he takes the leap across the rivers into Lanka, and he gives Sita the ring. And along the way, he fights a lot of demons, a lot of his army, and he burns down Lanka as well. That's the whole story of how Hanuman has forgotten his powers, and through invoking his imagination, his past, his stories, he brings back his power. Now, this story, how does this link to MS? That's the real question. Okay, this is where we bridge the gap between, and we take the leap from India to Sri Lanka. This is our leap together. So, firstly, let's decode this. Let's decode what is happening in the story. We have, from a microscopic level, you can understand Hanuman as a messenger. Okay, as messages, as communication, as neurons. Hanuman already has the power within him. You already have the neurons, you already have the communication, but the communication is not protected. It's not this sheet that used to be there. The myelin sheath has been degenerated, and hence you've lost your ability to travel. You've lost your powers to send messages across your entire network. because you've lost your protection, you've lost your ability to insulate electrical impulses. So imagine Hanuman as a traveler. Hanuman, in fact, is the wind element within you. It's the nervous system that travels throughout your body and it communicates. Imagine that as a metaphor. And who is Jamwant? Who reminds you of your powers? Who's that? Think about what in the story revived his powers back. It was his imagination. Jamwant is imagination. Imagination, past leads to understanding or becoming powerful, reviving powers. Okay? So where does imagination come from in us? You know, where does memory that we have, as a child, for example, you have the most brightest imagination. You feel like you can fly. You feel like when you watch a movie, you feel like you're that hero in the movie. If you remember as a child, you used to think wild things. You used to not be in the barriers of society's limited thinking of who you can be and how you can be. You used to dream. Have, you used to jump off a playground, whatever. In your childhood, you were the most imaginative and you were the most invincible. Imagine like you're trying to walk upstairs, right? And walking upstairs, crawling upstairs, and then walking up, that's a huge leap in itself. That imagination developing gives you power. As a child, you're the most imaginative. But as you go through life, you get put in through belief systems of society and how society is shaped. You get put in a simulation, your mind gets put and it gets wrapped around a belief system that makes you powerless, okay? That makes you like a victim. And that's what also Hanuman can be. Because of society, because of the sages, he can feel like a victim because the sages has put a curse on him. You as a child, you've been cursed by society to think a certain way, okay? To act within the limitations of society, and hence you can never ever become powerful again. This is not just about MS. I'm not just talking about the myelin sheet. I want you to zoom out, okay, and give a bird's eye perspective on your life and how your imagination has been killed and how your imagination has been suppressed by society's schools, by universities, by academia, by your parents, by your friends. Who you are truly, you've lost that. You have lost your myelin sheet. You've lost your protection. Your protection is your imagination. It's that which gives you power over the belief systems that have been shaped in you, that jail you. Your belief systems are your limitations that put you in a jail and you can never come out of it. You can never explore your potential, explore yourself outside of fear. The society is it plays on your self-esteem. It plugs your self-esteem, puts your self-confidence down. Because society always tells you can't do this, you can't do that. And that's what you've always been growing up. Imagine you're a child and you believe everything is possible and there's nothing impossible in your life. And a child genuinely believes that. A child has no limitations. That's why it can walk. That's why it can jump off things. And yes, it will fall down, but it will come back. It will get back up, And yes, it may start crying, but that doesn't matter. The fact that the child has tried to take the leap, But in life, because of your programming, because you have grown up a certain way, you have lost your ability to take leaps. You've lost your ability to feel powerful. And all you have in life is victimization. And because of your thoughts, because of this victim thinking in your mind, the tree that has grown inside you is of victim mentality. The answer is to rewire through neuroplasticity. Now, remember, your brain has the ability to be malleable and has the ability to change according to your belief system and how you think. If you think of a red car, you'll start seeing more red cars around you. You're wired to do that. Your brain is wired to be malleable, neuroplastic. So imagine you're a child, you're Hanuman himself, okay? And because of society's curses, you have been molded and shaped into a powerless human being. You've lost your ability to imagine. You've lost your ability to create, to illuminate the world, to be who you want to be from deep within. And that's why you look at so many people around you who are lost. There's so many people in this world that are lost. They don't know what to do. They go on one path and they can't decide where they're going. They don't know their destinations. And they're just lost. And there's some people who are completely clear with what they want. And they do whatever it takes to get it. There is a lot of clarity within those people. And there's the people who are completely an illusion because society wants to behave a certain way, even subconsciously, even if they don't know that society is conditioning them consciously. Subconsciously, you are conditioned as well. Okay, the words that are around you, the words that people speak around you, they condition your brain. So there's one side where there's clarity, and then there's one side there's lack of clarity, and you just are lost. There's also the middle path, in fact, which is probably much better, is of introspection. Oh, this is where we dabble outside of the disease, outside of science. But we, as society, we've been conditioned to operate within science, but the answers are actually not within science. If it was, this disease would have been solved. So we have to go out of the boundaries of science and explore through our imagination, through stories, invoke our imagination to come to a conclusion for this disease. Every single story in Hindu scriptures and whatever ancient civilization there is, because I'm from the Indian culture, I resonate with that most. But there, in ancient civilization, whether that's the Greeks, the Romans, or the ancient Egyptians, the Chinese, Japanese, they all have stories. These stories invoke human imagination. And through human imagination, you can essentially achieve greatness. Okay, imagination is what makes you alive. It's your inner child trying to create, trying to take that leap. There is lack of clarity, and then there is the middle path, which is introspection, and somewhat clarity. Okay, and then there's also another path, which is complete clarity, which is also sometimes dangerous because it makes you rigid. Okay, if you know completely what you want to do, and you're not introspecting, you're not giving yourself the chance to reinvent yourself or rethink your decisions. If you're constantly self-analyzing, if you're not doing that and you're just trying to get to a certain destination, it makes you rigid. It makes your mind rigid. It's not flexible. This is what gives you flexibility. Your ability to self-analyze, your ability to judge yourself, it gives you flexibility. And the more flexible a tree is, the more stronger, the more longer it lives. Okay, the more rigid a tree is, the more faster it gets cut off. And lack of clarity is just no tree at all. Like the tree is not growing as it should be. So these are the three realms that we humans constantly operate in. And because society has shaped us either this way or this way, we actually don't know this path. We never explore this path. Where does flexibility come from? It comes from yoga. Physical flexibility comes from yoga. Flexibility comes from experiences. The more experiences you have in life, whether that's traveling, whether that's making new friends, meeting new people, having different relationships, doing psychedelics, doing meditation, your experiences in life make your mind flexible. It makes your mind adaptable to different things. So, but if your mind is rigid and if you just go on one path, you reduce your surface area of luck. You reduce your area of growth and expansion. You could be something completely different. You could be, if you take some chance or opportunity, you could be something great, but because of your rigid mind, because of your ego, you can't really explore that. You don't really go into different territories. But going to different paths, exploring different avenues in life tells you what's not good for you and what's good for you. Okay? It tames your intuition. And this is my next point. Your imagination and your intuition work hand in hand. They're like your compass in life. And this is your answer to people who are lost in life. This is your answer. Okay? So imagine this is a compass. Okay, north. Imagine this is a compass and this is your direction. This is your gravitational pull towards your destination. Your destination in life is knowing yourself. The universe, the realities that you are experiencing, they're coming out of you. It's not this reality that you're living in. It's a result of your mind. Everybody, and even quantum physics now proves that everybody lives in different realities. Everybody lives their own reality. And your reality is shaped by your thoughts, by your mind. Okay? So the way you program your mind, the way you tame your mind, creates your reality. If you plant a negative seed in your mind, that will sprout a negative result in your life. If you hang out with the wrong people, you'll become like them and you'll do wrong things. If you hang out with the right people, you'll explore your potential and you'll achieve greatness. So your thoughts create and shape reality. Okay. And the universe is coming out of you. It's not this world that you live in, your reality is coming out of you. It's not, it's just existing. It's not like that. You'll notice this across the board. Coincidences that happen, luck that hits you, things that happen, synchronicity that happens in your life. It's not by chance. There is no coincidence. No. And this might be controversial and you might not agree with this. Okay. But there is no luck, okay? No chance. Everything happens for a reason in your life. People you meet, the opportunities you get, everything happens by the thoughts that have been planted, the seeds that have been planted in your mind, everything is as a result of that. And the biggest evidence for that, if you read a book, As a Man Thinketh, I would highly recommend it because it is a meditative scripture. It gives you a code onto understanding who you are and life itself. And that the understanding is that your thoughts shape reality. Everything in your life is happening for a reason. The way you are is shaped by your thoughts. And your thoughts, where do they come from? They come from your environment. They also come from your imagination. Your heart communicates with your intuition, your gut feeling, and that provokes imagination. Intuition. And I know these are words that people don't use often, and I know you might think, what's the place for logic in life? If you want to find clarity in life, have a wide range of experiences which will tame your intuition, and your heart will know what it wants the more it gets exposed to different experiences. When your heart knows what it wants, it talks to your intuition talks to your intuition talks to your imagination, and you get ideas. Okay, you get downloads. Just like Michael Jackson got downloads, just like every great person has Albert Einstein, even monks who meditate, all these people get downloads from the universe, and they themselves know that they are not the creators of their art. Okay, they themselves know that they're a channel. Every great person who understands how this universe works, they are a channel. That they are not the one who are creating. There is a higher creator. There's the universe acting through them. And if you realize that you're like, let's say you get an idea one day, okay, and you don't act upon it, someone else will act upon it. Someone else will get the download, and you might notice a month or two or a year later that you had the same idea, but you didn't act on it, and someone else did. This universe is trying to create. This universe, this divinity is trying to create constantly, and humans are the channel. Animals are the channel. This is what it's like to live a life in divinity, in God mode. God mode. Just like in a game, there's God mode. You can live life in God mode, and everything will happen in accordance to your heart's desire. Hanuman's heart was, in fact, it wanted to take the leap. This was the perfect time for Hanuman to take the leap. And he really wanted to deliver Ram's message because he's Ram's companion. He really wanted to deliver Ram's message to Sita, but he didn't know how. And then the universe came along, Jaman came along, the monkeys, his friends came along and helped him revive his powers, which gave him energy. The universe literally came together and gave him energy to deliver the message. That's what his heart, his will wants. Whatever your will is, whatever your heart's desire is, whatever your intuition wants, your imagination, you get that. Some questions to help you ponder on MS specifically. Why have you lost? What is power? This is probably a more important question. What is connection? Okay, why have you lost connection? The answer actually lies over here. Your connection to yourself is the answer to MS. Your connection with your past, your connection with your family, your relationships, your connection with your mind, your imagination is what will get you out of MS. And this may sound very weird. Again, this may sound very esoteric or weird, or it won't make sense now. The reason why you have lost connection is because you've lost touch with your heart's desire. Which means purpose, which means your driving factor in life. What's the message that is trying to come out of you? You've lost that. Hence, you're not even taking the leap into Lanka. Okay, so you need to revive your heart's desire. You need a purpose. You need something to look forward to every day. That will get you out of depression. How do you do that? How do you build your connection? How do you get power? If you don't have the resources inside you to get power, you rely on nature. You rely on the 5 elements. Yeah. So fire, water, air, earth, and space. So space is staring at the stars or the moon, stars. And fire is getting sunlight, your drive, your ambition. Water is going for a swim or having enough hydration as well. Okay. Making connection with water, not drinking water fast, drinking water slowly. So going for a swim, or just not even if you can't swim properly, just being in water itself. Okay, just standing in water is helpful. Air, you can also say communication, expression. Remember, messages and self-expression. Autoimmune disorders are actually the lack of expression, as we discussed in psoriasis and other autoimmune conditions, chronic fatigue, etc. So that's the air element. Earth element can also be grounding, spending time with animals, spending time with humans, being in nature, nature immersion. This can also be air, can also be oxygen, right? So breathing properly. Humming bee breath is really good. Brahmari pranayam is really good for MS, for allowing your body to express itself. And humming is great for the nervous system in general. By the way, from an Ayurvedic perspective, all the three doshas, so Vata, Pitta, and Kapha are involved in MS. Particularly Vata and Pitta are involved. Pitta is the fire element. Tejas is burning ojas. Okay, that's the description of Ayurvedic. And Vata is in the bone marrow. If you don't have power, be in contact with nature, and nature will give you love. Okay, which will open up your heart. The more your heart is open up, the more your mind is open up, the more your imagination opens up. Okay, the more your heart's desire gets invoked, and you get downloads to create, to act. We are all creative beings at the end of the day. And because of society, we've been boxed into one career, we've been boxed into one, it's like monoculture. We've been boxed into one particular life path, and we never really explore our dynamic nature. Every human being is dynamic in nature. It's not one single thing. Being dynamic is what makes you powerful. Hanuman didn't have one power. He had 9 superpowers. If you have MS, I would highly recommend reading the Hanuman Chalisa. Hanuman Chalisa, by the way, is a 40-verse Hanuman mantra, basically praising Lord Hanuman. And this is written by Tulsi Das, who was trapped in Akbar's fort because Akbar asked Tulsi Das to show the presence of God. And Tulsi Das was like, I can't do that. And Akbar then, this is a real story, by the way, Akbar then trapped Tulsi Das into a jail, and Tulsi Das recited 40 lines of he wrote 40 lines of the Hanuman Chalisa, and on the 40th day, monkeys came in and they damaged the entire jail, and they had made an attack on Akbar's fort. And Akbar was surprised by that, and he was shocked, so he freed Tulsi Das from jail. There is a lot of power in Hanuman Chalisa if you do read it, if you do understand it. The power that it holds is the story that it tells is of Hanuman, and that invokes your imagination. Even though probably you're not Hindu or you don't know what all this means, but you need exposure to stories in your life. Okay, you need exposure. This is why I try my best to tell a story in every class that I teach, which basically is an anchor. It's a metaphor for us to travel outside of the scientific boundaries that are set. It's like a cage to free us from the cage, the jail. It's the stories, it's the poems, it's the hidden language of scriptures. Okay? These hidden languages expand our imagination and make us a child again, so we become powerful. We become closer to ourselves, which is essentially the universe. The more you dive deep into stories, the more you read novels, for example, fiction, not nonfiction. I used to be a great avid reader of nonfiction until I started realizing the power of stories. Okay? It's not linear thinking. If you look at words, and I know I write words, but words are limited. Okay? Words are limited. What is unlimited? What is abstract? Words are linear for the mind. They think in one pattern. Okay? But what is, apart from words, what is that thing that can invoke imagination? It's paintings or artwork. So I used to always believe and used to always think that words are my thing, and I write a lot, so words should be my go-to. I should learn through reading. I should learn through words. But recently, and I'm giving you a secret, is looking at paintings, okay? And I love collecting paintings as well because, I don't know, it's just something that I enjoy as a hobby, but I didn't know that it could do that. But they invoke imagination. Read stories with comics, with pictures, okay? Invoke imagination. Pictures paint 1,000 words. One word only paints one word. So if you want to learn, if you want to expand your horizon of the brain, okay, the sky's the limit, by the way, and you can do greater things by looking at paintings. Your eyes have the ability to perceive deeper and deeper and deeper if you observe one thing. Okay? You'll notice. This is the art of noticing. You pick up on things and you learn from things that you probably never learned from earlier. You probably never noticed. But if you pay attention and you hold your attention in a painting and you look at it, you look at the strokes, you look at the depth, you look at the 3D. And I'm talking about old paintings, like people who actually put years of effort into one painting. That's much more powerful than today's new book that you've probably got off the shelf that you're reading. And this is also one way to invoke imagination. And I might do an example, or I might shoot a video on me observing a painting, which can probably give you deeper insight into what I mean by invoking imagination. Okay. So if you've lost touch with yourself, if you've lost your power, immerse yourself in nature. There is no other way to get out of MS. There is no other way to stop your immune cells attacking the myelin sheets. You can't do that through surgery. You can't do that. Your body's it's just happening, and you get prescribed medications that just prevent you from experiencing the symptoms of that happening. They don't really stop autoimmune. So how do you actually come out of autoimmune? How do you actually come out of this disease? Your body has generated that disease. Okay. So your body holds the power to come out of it as well. But because you have linear thinking, because your thinking is your thinking is not abstract, you won't go out of the boundaries that society has set up. For example, you might probably be thinking about what herb is he going to say that's going to help my MS? What supplement is he going to recommend that's going to help my MS? What exercise is going to be? What dietary food is it going to be? It's linear thinking. Okay, it's all outside stuff. What's most important is your inner work. Yes, I can tell you gluten is not important. Ginkgo, panax, ginseng, they're great herbs. Vitamin D, omega-6 are great for MS. They're all great and they're all supportive. If you don't immerse yourself in nature, if you don't revive your powers by your imagination, if you don't have a heart's desire to do something in life, to create, if you don't remind yourself of who you are, how you were as a child, the society will make you go crazy, and you will lose yourself, and you'll go into depression, you'll go into anxiety. Okay. The society, again, it leaches on our adrenal glands. It's cortisol inducing. Okay. The traffic, the lights, the lack of darkness, the notifications, the simulation that screens give us, they're all cortisol inducing. They fry our adrenals. They limit our imagination. Yeah. Everything great, everything beautiful, everything godly comes from your imagination. It comes from your intuition. It comes from your heart's desire. Okay. That's why when Hanuman, at the end of Ramayana, when he opened up his heart, he had an image of God, who was Ram and Sita, in his heart. That's his heart's desire, is to be a companion to Ram and Sita. Okay, is to bridge the gap between the neurons, is to send messages between the neurons for healthy communication. You need to be able to communicate with yourself. Okay, you need to be able to solve the conflict with yourself that you're constantly having. There's a conflict going on in your life, which is why scientific studies show that disruption and conflict cause stress. There's a conflict going on. You need to learn to solve this. Okay, this is how you'll be free from the jail that society has kept you in for all your life. Okay, the jail of your mind, the curse of society. Invoke your imagination to be free from that, to play on God mode. So yeah, that's pretty much it. If you want to get a deeper insight into reviving from every disease, watch my IBS video. It will give you the 7 insights on how to overcome and be resilient as a human being. Other than that, I do appreciate your time and your effort into watching the entire video. And I'll see you after a month or two. I'll keep writing newsletters on a fortnightly basis, but it won't be as regular as it used to be. But I do want to keep this going. Okay, I do want to keep teaching. So I'm going on this exploration. And once I collect all the knowledge and expand my imagination, I can teach better and I can teach much more fluidly as I want to. Otherwise, have a wonderful month or two ahead. And I hope to see you for the next semester.